Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Liviu Catuneanu Cica. Long name. I go by Liviu. And I am a senior consultant. I am a certified Appian lead developer, and I'm happy to see all of you guys here. Today, we are going to be talking about putting users first, the path to project success. So the agenda for today is we're going to start off with some bad news, that not all projects succeed. But then we're going to turn around and we're going to talk about how some project can be successful if we can gain an understanding of the users who will be using our software. I'm going to introduce you to human-centered design. I'm going to explain the various stages of it, and then I'm going to talk to you about how you can incorporate human-centered design into your projects, the role of that Appian plays in human-centered design. We'll also talk about how you can sell human-centered design to some clients that might be a little bit more hesitant to make the investment into it. And we'll do a conclusion and have time for questions at the end. So with that, let's get right into it. And before we get too far, let me give a brief introduction about myself. You got my name. I am a senior consultant with Macedon Technologies. I've been working at Appian for about 5 years now, since around 2019. And I am thrilled to be here to talk to you guys about something that I believe is essential to successful software development. Human-centered design, or HCD. Have you ever used a tool or a software that feels like it's fighting you at every step of the way? That's a clear indication of something that was developed without its users in mind. Today we're going to explore how putting users at the center of development is not just essential, it's crucial. So let's begin with a story. Let's imagine a digital library system designed without consulting its future users. The system was designed to archive historical documents, allowing people to find exactly what they were looking for using complex database-like search functionality. For developers, that sounds pretty nice, right? But this design, though intricate, failed to take into consideration the system's varied user base, from students to historians, who found this overly complicated and inaccessible. Even though the documents were digitized, they were as hard to reach as if they were locked in a physical vault. The result? Inefficiency and frustration. This is not just a story, it's a common reality when user needs are sidelined. It shows that even well-intentioned requirements can miss the mark without user input. Let's contrast that to this reimagined digital library system using HCD. Here we see an enhanced user interface designed with the users in mind. Simplifying the search functionality and adding specific filters greatly enhances the user experience for the target audience of the digital library system. Let's go into a more concrete example. So let's contrast that with an example of a real-world project that I worked on. This project was a quick project that we developed in 1 month, so it did not have too much time to do HCD at the start. We developed it, we built an MVP, we put it into pilot, and then after we went into pilot, launched into production, we went ahead and switched our focus a little bit more to human-centered design. The product was there in production. We started inviting not just the product owner to our demos at every sprint, but we also invited the users to get their feedback as well. And with the fact that the product was live in production, they were not just passive recipients of the changes that we were making, they were active participants, continuing to give us feedback and how to enhance it. This solution has been live for a couple of years now, and it's gone to the point where it's fully self-sufficient. We don't need any administrator interference to help with solutions. They can handle everything themselves, and it's saved the business countless of hours and money. It's a living system, constantly evolving, and it wouldn't be possible if you didn't put users first. So let me go ahead and introduce human-centered design. HCD is a design philosophy. It is not specific to software development. It can be used to develop physical products, services, but since we're all here for Appian, we will go ahead and approach it from the software aspect of it. It's creating products that really resonate with people. It's focusing on the user and bridging the gap between functional software and exceptional user experiences. Let me go ahead and give you a little bit of background on how I got interested in human-centered design. So in my undergraduate studies and my graduate studies, I took a lot of classes on usability, which is a lower level than human-centered design. Human-centered design is high level. Usability goes after UX. It's a subset of UX. But it was the same idea, focusing on the users and figuring out, thinking about them and what they need. So that helped me get into this mindset. And then throughout the 5 years that I've been working at Appian, I've been working on very many different diverse projects. And it was never the same. It was maybe one time I had a project where we are enhancing something that was already out there, but for the rest of the time, it's here's an idea, start from a sprint zero, understand the idea, understand your people, build out the solution that will help them do their jobs easier. And then outside of these projects, for an example, let me give an example of a recent project that recently went into pilot this past year. This project went into a limited pilot, and we had gone through these phases of HCD, focusing on the users, seeing what they need, what they would like, talking through them, showing them as we're building it out. It went into a pilot, and everyone was so excited to get their access to it. It was a limited group. They spread word throughout the organization. Different divisions heard, different people heard, and we are flooded with requests to get access to this system. This excitement, and seeing how it positively impacts the users that we have designed for is truly fulfilling for me. And this is really what drives my focus for human-centered design. Again, it's hard to get that without putting the users first. All right, so how does HCD help? You might have caught on it a little bit, but projects that incorporate human-centered design principles are more likely to succeed, meet user expectations, and deliver visible benefits like increased productivity and return on investment, which product owners and managers love to see. It's not just about creating software, it's creating solutions that people love to use, transforming everyday tasks into positive experiences. So what are the phases of human-centered design? There are 6 phases. We have observation, where we immerse ourselves into the world of the users, ideation, where we let our creativity run wild and come up with solutions for their problems. Rapid prototyping, where we build simple, high-level prototypes. They don't need to be perfect, but just something to get into the hands of the users. We get the users' feedback. We iterate on those 2 steps, prototyping feedback, to make it as good as we can. And then we reach implementation, where the final version of the product is put into production. I use air quotes around the final because this, as you can see from the diagram, this process is a loop. It's not a linear path. Once you reach production, you can continue to observe and follow the steps and iterate and build another version of the software that provides even more value to the users than the solution that was put out there already. So with that, let's get into the first phase, observation. So observation, we are diving into the user's world. We are looking at the world through their eyes. How do they complete their tasks? What is working for them? What are their pain points? How can we do this? Well, we have several ways. The best way is in person. Schedule an in-person meeting with them, schedule a Zoom or a Google Meets call with them. I love Google Meets and Zoom because we can record the meetings, and that is essential for me because if I'm in a meeting with a user, I want to be fully focused on them, asking questions, participating, and then I can have the recording to go back to if I miss something and pull in anything that I might have missed. If the users are too busy, sometimes they have a lot of work, they cannot schedule time to sit with you live, you can go ahead and ask them to record their own screens, a video of how they do their process today. Or if they're too busy for that as well, you can ask them to write a written report of how they do their tasks. But we're going from most essential to least essential in this spectrum here. Let me go ahead and give an example from a practical example. A few weeks ago, I started working on a new project. We're going through sprint 0, so perfect timing. I can use that as an example. Starting off on this project, the way that we began the observation phase is we scheduled a call with the people who will be working in the application and the stakeholders. It was a Google Meet, start the recording, and we have them walk through the process, how they do from start to finish. And as we're going through this, we're observing what do they like, what do they not like, what are their problems, and we keep track of everything. And then these are the kinds of things that we are looking for. Are there too many fields? Can we change things to make the process quicker? Can we make things less confusing? All these kinds of things. So after we're done with that, we've gone ahead and observed our users. We go into the ideation phase. Armed with our observation, we let our imagination run wild. We embrace all thoughts with an open mind. Here we can create personas and journey maps. Personas are conceptual definitions of the stakeholders in the system. And then journey maps are the steps that someone must take through the system. These are great tools to help us understand the people that we're building the application for and the path that they are taking through the software. But the idea here with ideation is to come up with creative solutions and provide the best product that we can. In my personal experience, I have not used personas or journey maps too much, but personas can definitely be helpful if you're working with a product owner who likes to focus very much on their own opinion rather than spraying out their thought process into the users. So by getting everyone into the room at the beginning, product owner, developers, yourself, you go ahead and you think through what are the majority of people that will be using the system. We don't want to create too many personas because that can become confusing and you can't please everyone, but you want to try to capture as many people as you can in these roles. And then we create things such as, for example, Jake from sales. And then if we're in a situation where the product owner thinks that it should be built this way, we think it should be built a different way, someone else thinks it should be built a different way, we can go ahead and bring up these personas into the conversation, which they, together with us, built, and we've all agreed upon these are the people that we're working for. We can be like, your idea makes sense, but do you think that Jake, the salesperson, would understand this process? Or do you think Jake, the salesperson, would find this terminology confusing? And by doing this, we can let them step out of their own mindset and think about the people that we are designing this system for. When it comes to, let's go back to the example that I talked about from the Sprint Zero project that I'm working on. So we have our observations. We went ahead and took the recording, took the screens, look at the screens, here are the fields, here are the steps. And then we start thinking, okay, this is the first screen that we have, but we can derive this information from the third screen. So why do we have the first screen and the second screen? Can we not just compress these down to 2 screens instead of 3 screens to make things quicker? This is confusing. This is called 3 different things. Can we just call it the same thing? We start to throw out ideas, think these through, and then again, schedule a live meeting with the users who will be using it and the stakeholders, and then we throw out these ideas, these questions. We want to see if we're crazy, if there is a real reason for them to be there, or if this makes sense. Like, does it really need to be this much? So we throw ideas, we talk through it, and then as we're going through this, we come to everything that we want to build into this project, and then we have our MVP bucket, because as always, we have time and money as constraints, and then our future enhancements buckets. So we have our ideas and all that. Then we're ready to move on to the rapid prototyping phase of human-centered design. In this stage, our ideas start to become reality. We use everything that we learned to build quick functional prototypes that represent our solutions. These don't need to be fully functioning, fully polished. We just want to get something together as quickly as possible, get it in the hands of the users, and validate that what we are doing is on the right path. The Appian is great for this. I will touch on this later. But the Appian interface designer, where you can quickly drag and drop interfaces and build them sometimes right in front of the users, is a game changer. Going back to my recent project example, after we had our ideas from the ideation phase, we got to work on building these mockups. So we took the ideas, we put them into the screens, we built them with the various tools in Appian. And we don't even need a database for this. We can keep things in local variables, simulate the functionality how it would work, and then we want to get it into the hands of the users. If you enjoy design, this is definitely the fun part of the HCD. I will also mention that. So from there, we move on to user feedback. So we have our prototypes. Now we need to get the feedback. We want to get it in front of the users. We want to watch, listen, learn. How do they interact with them? Are they good? Do they have problems? We can schedule, again, live sessions with the stakeholders to get the verbal feedback. Again, preferred live. The alternative is they don't have time, send them the mockups by email or offline and either ask them or send a questionnaire of what you would like to get the input on and have them give their opinions to you. And then from there, we can either pivot the project in a new direction if we're off the mark, or we can confirm that we're on the right path. This is an open dialogue. or even the smallest comment can lead to significant improvements. Now on this Sprint Zero project, we did attempt to send them offline through emails, did not get any feedback because it is, sometimes you can get an email, you have 100 emails, you might not have time to respond to those emails, so follow that up with a live meeting again. Scheduled it with the user who showed us the process, the stakeholders, and showed them live, which is even better because mockups are one thing, but we made them functional. We show how here you can select this, then this will become available. So show them live with this very quick mockup that we made in 2 days, and then get their input. And then from there we can proceed into the next stages. If we're on the actual development sprints, you can still get feedback through demos. So if you're following the Agile methodology, you develop for a sprint, schedule a sprint demo at the end, get the feedback from the demo, and then you have your feedback in that direction. So now that we have our feedback, we iterate. Refinement is key. We want to tweak, adjust, sometimes overhaul the prototypes based on the input. It's a cycle of feedback and iteration is where true innovation emerges. And this phase shows HCD's commitment to continuous improvement and keen attention to the user's needs. We're not stuck on the initial concepts that we thought of at the beginning. While we're looping through the iteration phase, it's important to keep value, time, and resources into consideration. This can mean several things. So if we're in a sprint zero, we might be able to afford going back and forth a few times with some mockups if it's necessary. In the project I'm working on, the feedback that we got was very minor, like some label changes or move a column around. We can say that's fine. We don't need to make new mockups for this. We'll capture it, we'll add it to the stories in the future, and we'll go ahead with that. If there are more drastic measures, you can make new mockups, schedule a new meeting to go over them, go through until you are satisfied. But there needs to be a point where you stop the mockups and start development. And then mockups can also be done during a sprint, but this can be time-consuming. If you have a human-centered design-focused resource on the project, they can go ahead and work one sprint ahead where the developers are working on the current sprint. The HCD resource can work on the future sprint. They are working on making mockups for the future stories, running them by the business, doing all of these HCD processes. Stories are ready by the time we move on to the next sprint. Developers are ready to pick them up. If we're nearing the end, they can work on UAT and all that with the users, and they work hand in hand. If you're on a project where you don't have a dedicated human-centered design resource, and it's up to the project lead or the developers, it can be a little bit more tricky. At the lowest level, the iteration can come from the demos, the sprint demos. So you give the demo, get the feedback, capture it in the demo feedback story, put it into the next sprint, and then iterate on it based on that. And once we've iterated, we will go ahead and reach implementation. So this is often seen as the end in HCD. We're releasing our product into the wild, but it's not the end. We have a commitment to ongoing improvement. So we can release our final product, and then we can go back, loop through the observations, see how the users are using this final product, and continue to enhance it. In my experience, the way that we have reached implementation is in two ways. We have reached an MVP that we have reached a product that has reached the MVP that we have established at the beginning of the product. So I go ahead and release that to production, and then we go ahead and have a future enhancements buckets that we can work on to further enhance it. While we're working on the future enhancements, we also keep track of any feedback that is coming back from production. If there's any urgent feedback, which there shouldn't be if we did HCD correctly, we will address it as quickly as possible, or we will add it to further future enhancements to better create a product that will help the users. The alternative is to launch it into a pilot, which I personally prefer. We get it into into the hands of a small set of users, so we are getting it into production, we are giving value to the business, and then we are able to continue this process of HCD through those limited amount of users. Get their feedback, see how they're using it, again, schedule sessions, and then continue to enhance it until we are happy with the solution that we want to release to the organization as a whole. And with that, we have reached all the 6 phases of HCD. Let's talk about how you can incorporate HCD into your project. So as you might have heard me talking throughout, you might have heard terms of Agile. Yeah, HCD goes very well hand in hand with the Agile methodology. It's an iterative process that emphasizes user feedback and rapid prototyping through the sprints, through the demos, through all that. So very easily paired. If you're working in waterfall, it's a little bit trickier. You can enhance the initial stages by during the requirements gathering and the design phase to try to get the mockups and everything solid there. And then by the time you're reaching the development phase, you're more confident that what you're developing is what the users will need. And then if you've gone through the waterfall model, you can go ahead at the end, see where future enhancements, and go through the model again, and still follow the HCD. A little bit less than how you can in Agile, but still works. And then we get to the next phase, selling HCD to customers. So customers might have a little bit of, might not want to invest in the initial investment. They might think two things. One, why do we make the initial investment? And two, how will this affect the timelines? Well, for the cost one, numbers speak very well to people. You can do research online, bring up different statistics. I have put a reasonable statistic that I found here, that software can be 100 times more expensive to change after it's been released to production. I've seen other studies that show it can be 1,000 times more expensive after a production release. So grab those statistics, show it to the product owner, and those numbers should be speaking for themselves. And then the timelines, let's imagine a solution that is built just on assumptions, where we think we understand the users. We're going to go through all the development process, reach the end, maybe do a UAT session, maybe not, release it into production, and then the users get their hands on it, and they say, this is confusing, this is not helping us, this has made our job more difficult. The timeline is back at the start, so we have lost all that time. By doing the phases of HCD, you are guaranteeing that at every step, every sprint, you are developing something that is on point with what the users will need, and by the time you reach production, everything has been vetted. So you are not running into the risk of having to start all the way from the beginning and go through the whole process again. We use techniques like this to explain it to the product owners, to the business, and hopefully get them to buy in on HCD. So how does Appian play a role in HCD? Well, I've already mentioned it in the rapid prototyping phase. Appian's functionality for a drag and drop interface functionality is great for rapid prototyping. I have done this live in front of the client, where I pull up the interface designer to show them their ideas, and I've heard them say things like, I love you guys watching building a interface in Appian. It's like magic, bringing the application to life right in front of my eyes. I've also done really rapid prototyping in a demo, where things were going off the rail with two product owners disagreeing on where something is, how something should be designed. So demo's going off the rail anyway, I'll derail it myself, pull up the interface designer, show them how both would look, get them to agree, and then we have the solution to move forward with. This is the power of Appian, and this is UIs. You have process modeler that can quickly bring the processes together, and even at a more complex level, like now we're looking at features like document extraction and AI that you can quickly bring together with a few clicks. So you can very rapidly prototype even really complicated processes that before would have taken a long time to do without Appian. Overall, Appian empowers us to bring together complex ideas to life quickly, test them with real users, and refine them in real time. It's not just about making processes faster, it's about making them better. And with that, we come to a conclusion. When you walked into this room, you walked into this room with Appian in your tool belt. As you walk out, you're going to walk out with human-centered design in your tool belt as well. I'm hoping that you can bring these two tools together to experience what I have experienced. Put your users first throughout all the stages of development. Focus on them, focus on what they need. And by the time you reach production, I'm hoping that you can see the excitement that I have seen on my projects, where people are excited to get your tool and say how happy they are, how it has helped them, save them time, save them money, let them do other work, and all this stuff that can be really fulfilling as developers and all that. So thank you for joining me on this journey through human-centered design. And with that, I'll open it up if there's any questions.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. One is, recognize that you need to listen to your customers.
Yes.
But oftentimes, either the customer doesn't know what they want, or they come up with a really bad idea. And I'm saying you're still listening, right? So it's not like I'm being a dev and I'm just insisting that you work way. I'm saying that, they're just really suggesting something that, how do you manage that kind of stuff? Because if you don't know, we're devs, right? I don't ask my builder to design my house. I ask the designer to design my house, and then I get the builder to build it. So how does that play into this? And is that just a case of experience and learning how things typically are, or do you have specialized UX people that help? How do you help?
Yes. So it can help to get to, so we can't build for everyone, right? We might have some people who say to build it one way, and it doesn't make much complete sense. We can rely on different people who are working in the software to get various opinions and try to find the one that best works for the solution, that makes the most sense. If that's not available, it is experience as well. Human-centered design is the highest level, where it's a process of designing the software by bringing people in there. A level lower than that is UX, user experience, where you reach other concepts like usability, like accessibility, things that help you build good software just by knowing concepts that would lead to good software. So when you start to dig into actual UX features, you can start building on that experience to help guide them to a good solution based on that. And that's definitely something I would recommend. Human-centered design is the start. This is your process that you're going to go through to get your opinions from the users. If they're not good, you need to learn about UX as well and help guide them to the right solution. And then there's also experience, right? Like, yes, I have seen various examples of something that was built wrong, and we've built it wrong. We've found out what works well, so I can recommend an alternative solution. Like, hey, we've done this in the past, it didn't work. Let's not do it this way. Let's try this other way. Prototype it fast, let them see it, and then go from there.
Okay. And then just to follow on, team. You talk about the process. How does the team usually? Do you have a UX person along with a dev, along with a VA and the customer? Like how are those interactions usually structured? Or do you just have a dev sit with the customer, which would be very interesting?
It depends on the resources available, right? So some projects don't have all those resources available. Like I mentioned, if you have a dedicated human-centered design person, that person can play that role. They can sit with the business, they can build all of this. The developers can focus on their development. They can sit with the business analyst, they can sit with the product owners, come together with the mockups, with the designs, flesh everything out and all that. If you have a limited team, you have to do HCD as well as you can. So a developer who has experience in this might need to do a little bit of a focus on, which I do a lot of, both development and the HCD part. You have to focus on the development part, save some time throughout the sprint to meet with the business, do the backlog refinements, show them, and then do the sprint, show them how something can look like, get the feedback through the natural process that you would have through the sprint. So it really depends on the team.
So you suggested that sometimes on your projects they have HCD, just individual people to focus on it.
Yes, and that's ideal because they can work ahead of the developers. Everything can be set in the next sprint for them. They come in, they work on that, and then the HCD person moves on to the next sprint to work on that, get everything set. And then when it's nearing the end and there's like no future work planned, then while the developers are finishing it up, they can work on UIT, working with the users, getting things ready for production, documentation. I've seen this kind of use. Yes.
So what I've noticed, at least from my experience, is that a lot of clients usually don't want to pay for a dedicated designer on implementations such as the examples you gave. With that said, I guess first question is, does the UX or HCD usually fall upon the product owner in those scenarios? And then if so, on the Appian online training resources, where would you find, I guess, the courses or the trainings that apply to HCD? Which path is that fall under? Is it usually your developer
For the second question, I haven't really looked at the pass. I'm sure there are a lot of, even outside of the Appian Academy, there's the UX design guidelines, which we can share out. The product owner can be an HCD resource. There are some product owners like I'm working with now that are very gifted in design and all that stuff, although you want to make sure that they're not just building from their ideas, they are actually following meeting up with users and all that. To me, I would do part of it myself. So I go with the product owner, but then I also encourage, if I can't meet with the users, we have everyone invited to the demo. That's the product owner and the usual that. I recommend let's bring some users into this demo. Let's have actual people see this demo as well. So we can by virtue just do the HCD process with myself as a developer being in there and helping to guide it, but not specifically taking my time out of my usual sprint activities, mixing it in with all that. Definitely still recommending the dedicated HCD resource. Any other questions? Yes?
On the topic of a dedicated HCD resource, are there well-known or popular certifications that could be applied toward a dedicated HCD position?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. There are a lot of learning resources. The stages that I have shared with you are from an organization called IDEO. So there are definitely a lot of resources to look out there for. And there are definitely learning resources even on online websites like udemy.com, where you can learn to get that, and then experience is the best source as well. Yeah. Any other questions?
Sometimes in my experience, I've had users kind of be reluctant to give feedback. I was wondering if you have any strategies to help get feedback from users.
Questionnaires. So I mentioned that you can send questionnaires to get additional feedback, but so you can send them a questionnaire, ask them questions, prompt them, guide them through the process, and then you can elicit that feedback as well. Yeah, if they're not as talking. I think we're just about at time now. We'll need to wrap it up, but if anyone has any further questions, feel free to see me outside, and I can definitely answer any other questions as I see you around the convention center. Thank you very much for joining me. See you guys later.